That's always better for engagement. We can see your eyes, we can see your body language if you have questions or comments. If you can't because you're eating or balancing two kids or whatever the case might be, totally understand. But I tend to find that when we have video on, it's better, particularly, and we'll get into this, but as we go, we're going to showcase examples and talk about different ideas. And if your company is doing that or has thought about doing that, like, we want you to jump in and volunteer ideas.
One quick thing for me, this is Adam talking, is that I'm on a landline only because I have really bad phone reception in my house. So I thought the trade-off was better to use is that okay?
That's totally fine. We'd rather you be here and we can hear you than be on video and it's not working. So
exactly. That's what I figured. So
I just wanted to mention that though. I'll reboot that comment here in a few minutes once we start.
I'll email everybody my picture after so they know what I look like.
Oh, don't you worry. I've got your picture all keyed up.
Oh, that's true. Oh, that's right.
You
got plenty of my mug.
Absolutely. I've got a picture. They will know who we were talking to today. I feel like I'm like waving at each of you individually. I was like, oh, there's Doreen and Lorraine and Lenora. Like, it's so good to see all of you guys.
I know. I see everybody in person.
It's crazy. I feel like we're all fast friends and we've never all met. So it's good to bring all of you guys together and then just, this is definitely going to be conversational. We've got a lot of folks on the LMA side today that we're going to be talking through some ideas. We've got Adam from the Examiner. He's going to be speaking about why he saw so much success so quickly. We'll be showing some examples from some other folks here and really just, leaving this very open. So certainly this is going to be something where we want you guys to chime in. So this is not a webinar setting where you can't chime in anytime or ask questions. Please, we want you guys to ask questions because that's why we're doing this. This is why we're doing it in an office hour type of setting rather than a giant webinar. We have some things prepared, but we'd much rather answer questions and really learn more about what all of you guys are doing. So we know that there's amazing stories from each of you happening out there. And so we're just excited that we're able to bring you together and hopefully we're going to be able to help each other and really take some things back with you this afternoon and implement them and help you guys grow some revenue.
Great.
All right. We're straight up at 10 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get the presentation going. And I'm going to kick it over to Jed Williams, who can kind of start things off while I'm sharing my screen.
Sounds good. Thanks, Julia. Welcome, everyone. Gosh, we have 2 pages of Zoom tiles already. That's incredible. Our goal is to break Zoom. I don't think Zoom is breakable, but maybe we can break it with the number of people that are on here and the number of ideas that'll be shared. I just want to echo, I'm going to show a couple of slides here just to, level set where we are, the incredible momentum that's happening around this program and around this COVID-19 local news fund that all of you are driving. So I have just a few slides I'm going to walk through really quickly, and then we're going to get right into the meat of this hour or however long we go, which is all about idea sharing, all about best practices, all about strategies that are working, all about creative ideas and inspiration. To Julia's point, that you can take back to your shop and either start as quickly as possible, at least kick it around with your team as an idea, or if you're already doing it, figure out a way to do it better, recalibrate on it, figure out the kind of the next thing in your campaign you want to do to continue to grow. So I just want to underscore this point that Julia made. Like this, let me put it strongly. For this to be a successful hour, we need you guys to be interactive. If you see something on here that appeals to you that you're doing, we need you to shout it out and tell other folks what you're doing and why it's working and what you're learning and what you would encourage them to do. If you have a question about something that we're rolling through here, whether it's something that Julia is talking about, or it's the marketing library that Emily's going to show you later, or it's Adam's approach at the Examiner that's been so successful, like the interruption kindly is the best gift that we can have here so that you are leaving here in an hour or less and you get as many ideas out of this call as possible. And by the way, this is not a one-time only deal either. We plan to have these on a recurring basis, probably hopefully same channel, same kind of time to make it as easy as possible for everybody. So know that this is a series and this is meant for you to build a network and then for these folks to become your peers and become your friends and tap into each other and create best success for each of you as we move forward with this program and with this local news fund in the weeks and months ahead. So that's my preamble and let's dive in. So next slide, Julia.
Yeah.
This is our team. Hi. You also saw Nancy on the call. Nancy Lane is our CEO, and she's joined us, which is great. We may have others drop in as well. I want you all to know, and I think you probably feel this already, this is a true team effort by the entire LMA staff. We are a lean and mean and scrappy, but actually we're a lean and nice and very scrappy bunch. in total, and you've got the entire team, the Army, mobilized against this effort. So everyone behind the scenes is playing some sort of role in helping with your success with this COVID-19 Local News Fund. The three folks you'll hear from today are myself. God, I look really, really like kind of wide-eyed in that picture. I must have had
You're
like an
excited.
extra tall cappuccino that morning.
Yeah.
And then Julia, you know, who is kind of our air traffic control, our point of contact and leading so much of this. And then Emily, who's doing a wonderful job in building out so many of the marketing resources that you all are able to tap into. So those are our three presenters. And then of course, we're going to hear from Adam here in a few minutes as well. Let's keep going. So I just want to bring folks quickly up to speed with where we are. If you were maybe a little bit, like maybe you weren't on one of our informational webinars that we did a couple of weeks ago, or you're somewhat new to this program, I just want to quickly level set in one slide what this is about, the big idea, the big vision. So we have launched this in communities all across the US, and truly it's becoming like a full coast-to-coast map at this point, which is pretty awesome when our team looks at it. But we have launched this COVID-19 Local News Fund all across the country. The goal, as you see here, but I'd like to read it to emphasize it, is to put resources directly in the hands of independent and family-owned local news organizations, you guys, to help you do the essential mission critical work around COVID that you're doing in your communities every day. Your local news and reporting, the community information, your work has never been more essential. We're passionate believers in that. And our goal is to help you create more and generate more resources to do more of that work. So our mission is all about democratizing giving, enabling you to activate your communities so that anyone who cares about your brand and the unbelievable work that you do has the ability to directly support it. Whether that's an individual like me giving 25 bucks, or it's a larger philanthropist or community foundation or a business, we want this to go up and down the ladder, up and down the pyramid, enable you to be able to activate your entire community. Our goal is speed to market, speed to help, and a bias toward action. So getting you from sign up to a campaign launched to real donation dollars, and then escalating and growing donation dollars as quickly as possible. Next slide. So where are we now? This is pretty awesome. This program, this COVID-19 Local News Fund, is less than 2 weeks old overall, and we're quickly approaching $200,000 in total donations and contributions that have come into local media organizations just like you guys and more. It's an unbelievable number. We set a record yesterday with more than 25,000. We're averaging $20,000 and $25,000 a day, and that is growing quickly, well into the several hundreds of individual donors or donations every single day. And by the way, the average size per gift or donation is going up as well. People are seeing the messages that you're putting out there. They applaud the work you're doing, and they're supporting you increasingly in numbers and also with bigger donations. One more slide for me, please. So can you say momentum? We can. Here's our data as of, I don't know, about midnight last night when Julie and I tallied this, so it's probably gone up even more. But we're now at 117 total campaign pages that are built and are ready to go live or be promoted by those news organizations. We have 64 of you folks that have campaigns live in their markets, in their communities, that at least have one donation in. Most have far more than one donation, but 64 live with real money. 26, nearly half of those have raised more than $1,000, 10 and counting at 5,000 plus, several at 10,000 plus, a couple at 20,000 plus and growing quickly. 15 plus partners have more than 50 individual donors or donations. And as I mentioned, this amount per donation is going up. Over the past 3 days, we've been closing in on $100 per donation, which speaks to how effectively you all are positioning and messaging your brand and the work you're doing with community members. So that gets you up to speed. It's a level set on what we're doing. It's a way to say we're absolutely floored and inspired by the work that's happening here, and let's go do more of it, and let's help you guys even be more wildly successful with this program. So with that, Julia, back to you.
You know, we wanted to really kind of piece this out today and make it kind of simple to consume. There's certainly a million different ideas out there and certainly a ton of strategies. So what we wanted to do is really break it down. We've got the top 5 things that we'd like you guys to be able to go ahead and do and implement with your own campaigns after we have this call today. And the first one is going to involve our friend Adam from the Examiner. So, peer-to-peer outreach. Adam, we're going to jump right in and start asking you a couple questions. And really what we want to hear, we realize that one of the biggest pieces that we're seeing, the really key to success that we're seeing from a lot of different publications and a lot of different organizations is really that peer-to-peer outreach. Just going ahead and calling in the favors and talking to folks that you have a personal relationship with is certainly the way that we're seeing most people grow the quickest. Adam, you passed 15,000, I think, last night, right?
Yes, yeah, that was exciting to hit that benchmark. So I think that dawned on me after we launched, is that the personal relationships is really something powerful that you need to tap into. And I think many of us might be reluctant to go down that route too aggressively because you don't want to, over ask or abuse people's generosity. But what I realized early on in the process was that people are eager and want to give. And beyond that, you're fundraising for something much more important than yourself. Like, I almost didn't even sign up at all because of pride and other issues of not wanting to go out there and be asking for money. But I realized it was bigger than me. It was about our readers and our advertisers and our employees. And at that moment when that dawned on me, I realized I just had to go at it full bore and embrace the whole thing. And, the other thing all the publishers on the line realize is that all day, every day, you're doing favors for people in some way, shape, or form. And there are a lot of those people who are eager to sort of pay you back for all those favors over the years because of all that you've done to help them. So what I've done specifically with the people I'm in touch with throughout the day is we're having a conversation about whatever it might be, just in the natural course of things. And then, maybe it's an email conversation or text. At some point, I'll introduce the topic in sort of a non-threatening way. And one way I've done that is not by asking specifically for a donation, but instead providing a link to a column that I wrote on the topic, and then suggesting or asking that if you are supportive of the mission of local news, that you pass this link along to at least one person in a position to give $25 or more. So it's like a very modest ask. You're not even asking that person for money. You're only asking them to maybe ask one person for $25, somebody who would want to anyway. So, obviously you hope that they might ask more than one person and, solicit more than $25, but it's sort of like a easy way to go at it. And it's been incredibly effective in almost 100% rate of conversion or close to it. I think that the main thing for me, at least, has been in my mind to embrace the idea that this is something I should be pushing aggressively. And once I got past that hurdle, it's been something I sort of look forward to because it's for a good cause. And I think people also pick up on that passion when you're asking, and that'll come through. What I did at first in the opening was I wrote a sort of very honest, transparent editorial about our challenges, including layoffs. And that's something I would normally never get into in public. But, given the nature of the situation, I felt like honesty would go, not just honesty, but transparency would go a long way. And it really has. So if any of you haven't done that yet, I would highly recommend sort of a deeply personal, very honest approach in putting yourself out there to your readers.
Hey, Adam, this is Jed. I'm going to ask a couple of quick questions to get us started, and I think we're probably going to have a bunch of feedback from folks in the Zoom room. I love the approach of approaching everybody in your network and not making a hard salesy ask, but just getting spread it around to one other person that could give $25. How did you come up with that overall? And also, have you extended that to other people at your company to say, it's not just me, Adam Stone, doing this, but I'm going to try to get every employee in my organization to follow my lead and do the same thing to create this incredible network effect around the message?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. I had a group email going already before I was even in touch with you guys, with the crew, the whole Examiner crew, both the crew that was continuing on and the laid off staff. And it's a pretty tight knit bunch, and there's a lot of mutual respect and loyalty there. And once we launched, I for a moment I hesitated because I wasn't sure if it was in bad taste. But then I realized it's something that was in everybody's best interest to try to promote. So I sent a group email to more than 30 contributors and explained exactly what we were doing. And there was like immense power in that because, especially some of the more dynamic members of the team really have gone at it very hard. They're obviously, it's in their best interest for us to be able to raise as much money as possible, and they're just passionate journalists who have a wide network. So I'm very glad I took that step. It was actually, I think, the first thing that I did was send that email to the staff because I wanted them also to be aware of it before anybody else was. So that's another thing to keep in mind. If anybody on the call, I'm not sure if there's anybody like this who hasn't gotten started yet, but I thought that was important for them to be the first to know about what we were doing. So yeah, I would highly recommend getting your staff involved or at least offering them the opportunity to do so.
Oh, keep going, Adam. I think we're good.
Hello?
Oh, keep going. We're here. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That was my thought on that.
I have another question for you of just kind of logistics. If you could run everybody through a little bit about, what you placed in print, what you placed on the site, where you placed it. I know you had that amazing editorial, and we'll mention the importance of really writing those types of columns in a second here, but just give everybody just an idea of how much outside promotion you did, what did you put on the site versus in print, and just really like how you implemented everything.
Right. So I've been trying to get the word out there in every one of our platforms. So I think it was a Sunday night when I first published it, and I started with our website. So I put it at the very top of our homepage, the column that I wrote about the announcement of the partnership. So that was the first step. And then I put it up on my personal Facebook, on our company Facebook, on our company Twitter, on my personal Twitter. And then we also send out an email blast to all our lists the next day. I think that was the Monday, the next day, that morning at 6 a.m. because from my understanding, that's a good time to send the email newsletter. So that went out the next morning. And then the other thing with the social media, and then the next day it went in print. So it went online first on Sunday into Monday, and then we printed it Tuesday, the column. But with social media, one thing that I've found that's important, with social media in general, but especially here, is being very on top of engagement. Anytime somebody likes a tweet or makes a comment on Facebook, to engage with them. Even if it's somebody, like I said, just literally liking your comment and not commenting, I'll thank them for their support, and they might end up donating after I did that, even if they hadn't donated yet. So I just think it's really important to engage with everybody that's supporting you, and the social media is such a powerful tool in that way.
Absolutely. Adam, I'm going to go ahead and show the editorial link too so people can see it. Just to give you guys an idea of what this first one, and
I did put it in the chat channel as well, so it's pinned there.
So and what our fourth point is really to drive home writing these editorials and these types of columns. And Adam, you wrote this first one here as the campaign kicked off. You also wrote a thank you column, and you also had your 13-year-old write one yesterday.
Yeah.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit about all three and why all three have been different and the reaction you've gotten from it?
Yeah, so the thank you note was really important for me in my mind to write because I was just absolutely blown away by the level of giving and the level of support. Everyone wanted to help. Anybody not in a position to give wanted to share the link, and just the generosity was just phenomenal, and all the amazing comments on the donation page. So I felt like it was very important in this week's paper to have a thank you note to our readers. So we did that online and in print, sent it out on the newsletter and social media. And then another opportunity, as Julia mentioned, emerged because I have a friend in publishing in this area in Westchester, and she had seen something my daughter had written on Facebook, and I was in touch with this publisher friend of mine about running an ad on her website about our fundraiser. And so, I even talked to her about maybe an advertorial where we would just run my column, but with like an advertorial label in her magazine online. But she suggested, she knew my daughter was a good writer, my 13-year-old. She said, why don't you have your daughter write a piece about journalism in general and the importance of local news from a kid's perspective. And then within that column, it'll mention the fundraiser. And so that's exactly what she did. And it went online yesterday. And it's like one of the most popular things she's ever posted. So it's like quickly got like 400 likes on her website, and as she said, it's on fire right now. So, and the truth is, it led to a lot more donations too. Which is sort of like a powerful human interest story, and it led to a lot of support. So, sort of anything sort of honest and genuine that gets the word out there about the fundraiser seems to be pretty potent and pretty helpful. So, and I would also encourage everyone to have it published across all platforms that you have, for sure. And email newsletters seem to be the most effective way. Something about the nature of the email newsletter, popping up right in your inbox, we found that has a particularly strong response rate.
Awesome. And I'm going to remind everybody, if you guys could mute your lines when you're not speaking or asking questions. I think we got a little bit of feedback out there, so just wanted to mention that one more time. It's just, mute if you can. Adam, if you had to give everybody one piece of advice, as we kind of wrap up and move into the other folks and talk about some other examples, what would you tell folks as either getting started or maybe they want to try to grow a little quicker? What's the one piece of advice you'd give them?
I think it's not as much tactical as it might be what I said before about not being shy about this. I think that goes a really long way. I mean, we could all talk about different strategies, and those are incredibly important. But the difference maker for me was really just embracing the idea that it's okay to be out there doing this. Like, I wasn't totally okay with it at first, and then I decided that I should be, and that it's something that's incredibly important to us all, and to let people know. And also, I think the honesty in whatever you might write, if you write a first-person column about this, sort of let yourself be vulnerable in that way, including the difficulties that your newspaper is facing. I think it's maybe easier to do that now than it might be in other situations in the past, because the pain is so universal. So like there's no shame in it or something like that. And that, I think that maybe gives some people more comfort level to go at it with confidence and just really be genuine and honest with your readers, let them know the situation, and I guarantee it'll generate a significant response.
Absolutely. Before we kind of move on and start showing some other examples and talking about different topics, does anybody have any questions for Adam? Feel free to jump in or chime in if you guys have done something similar. I know a lot of folks out there have sent that personal message, have written the column, have really, send something, some kind of message out to the public that you guys have done. And we've seen some beautiful examples of that out there. So anybody want to chime in or ask any questions?
I'm imploring you not to be shy.
As
Eric, do you want to talk for a second about what you guys have done in Meriden? Because you just penned a column a couple of days ago.
Yeah, I'm happy to, Jed. As a news editor writing one of these, it was an opportunity also to highlight our coverage and give credit to our staff and to acknowledge the personal risk that they're undertaking, and so that I was happy to have that opportunity as well, and I hope that resonates.
Absolutely. It's certainly been good. I've got a question in from Liz here. It says, how do you balance and ask for donations against asking for subscriptions? This is a good question for anybody who wants that question to answer that one, even Jed. I think, the team is struggling with the effect this is having on their brand.
If you're asking me, we don't do subscriptions, so it would probably be better for somebody else to answer that particular question.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm happy to start, but I'd love to get feedback from those that have digital subscription models. And I think this is, first off, and Liz knows this, we work very closely together. For so many newspapers in particular, you've really been focused on the transformation and growth of your business in recent years through digital subscription. And for many of you, I don't want to speak for all of you, but for many of you, contribution and donation was not part of that vocabulary. It was not part of your strategy. So now you're expanding your overall audience development and reader revenue strategy. You're basically adding another leg to the stool in addition to digital subscription. Now you're giving the reader or the user the choice of contribution and donation. And I think it's exactly that. I think it's framing it as choice, right? And so, and giving users that sort of option to pursue the path that they're most comfortable with. Maybe they don't know you as well, and so they're not inclined to become a subscriber right away, but they would give a one-time contribution or donation with the larger environment happening around you. And maybe it's an opportunity to bring them into your brand, to get them to know you a little bit better, to utilize this program or this fund to enable them as a contributor and then start nurturing the relationship toward a subscription. And so I think in the case of, I won't speak too much, but in the case of Record Journal, they've created two different paths here, and neither is right or wrong. It's whatever the user is comfortable with. They see both. And then I think also it is important to think about your current subscribers are already your biggest fans and your biggest brand advocates. So thinking about going back to them in a very, respectful way and saying, look, because you're our valued subscriber, we need your help more than ever. Maybe just this one time in this moment, but asking them to make a donation or a contribution beyond the subscription, or kind of to Adam's point in a different way, asking a subscriber to go activate their network. They're already your brand advocate. They already love you. Will they go share the fund and the program, the campaign that you've built with some of their friends, so you're expanding your network there?
Absolutely. And we've got a couple comments in here. I'm going to actually read a couple of these because I know not everyone can necessarily see the chat, but there is a couple links that people have been sharing too. Stephanie Manning up and the Masthead Maine folks up there is just mentioning here that they have a subscribe and support in the same messaging as an option and a choice. And she shared a link as well to how they're doing. They're switching over to our fund in the next couple days. We're building out those pages as we speak. But that's a great example. And then Matt, who you get that wonderful email from every morning, also mentioned, a great comment that kind of, really drives the message home is that I subscribe, but $5 a month isn't enough to express my support for what you do. So that's a great example of how people understand that they're a subscriber, certainly, but that they want to donate more. So that's something that might be helping you guys with your messaging. And then Matt also mentioned that there are subscribers who want to support you more in the time of need. And there are also people who don't subscribe for whatever reason. They read it at work, they live out of town, that may be from your community originally, and they've never been given the opportunity to financially contribute. So this is a good opportunity to really, kind of bridge those two areas and really kind of move forward for everyone. And Joshua says that, one of the things we've been discussing is that our paying members seem much more willing to contribute a little bit more. So we're thinking about focusing more on non-paying subscribers to become members. So those are great suggestions from everyone. Anybody else have, I got to see another message coming in. Any other thoughts or ideas on how to kind of get through all these things, or any questions about just that personal messaging aspect?
Julie and Jed, this is Liz Way. I just wanted to say thank you to Adam, because even though we're all in on this and we are getting donations, I haven't done this personal piece myself yet. And it is something to mentally overcome. So I appreciate you being so honest about it and saying that, it wasn't easy at first, because I'm kind of mentally gearing myself up for this ask. And I really like how you're framing it. That you're not asking the person. You're not asking the person directly, you're asking them to ask somebody else. Mm-hmm. And
exactly, that sort of empowered me to go forward with it more aggressively, because it felt, sort of like an easier thing to ask people that you cared about. So,
I just want to say thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I appreciate that.
Before we transition, let me just pick up on that with a couple of things, just to reiterate a couple of things that Adam did and said. One is, and I think, Julia, this will lead directly into number 4 here. One is that this is not a one and done campaign. This is not like I wrote one column or I sent one email blast and whatever happened, and I guess I'm done now. Like, okay, this is like the thing, this is a campaign over several weeks and several touch points and multiple personalities and leaders at your organization. And so Adam has already written 3 pieces and utilized.
And also, just to jump in on that point, is that we also ran a house ad that displayed a whole number of quotes from people on the Give Butter Donate page. And so that was sort of another opportunity to get the link out there in the story about the fund, and to thank everyone who supported us. So that's another idea for people to keep in mind.
So I love that. And that's exactly where I was going to go next, is the personal thank yous that you did are really powerful. You did them in a one-to-one way through social media, and then you built that sort of collage or house ed montage of so many of the comments on your campaign page. That's powerful. Personal thank yous to people that are publicly visible are a really important thing here to remember. And the other quick point I'll make, and then we'll keep going, on the don't be shy. You know, Liz, Julie and I have talked a lot about this. It's not just that, you know, oh, like, how do I get comfortable with making the ask? To frame it more strongly, we think you have a responsibility to make the ask of your community, because you have a responsibility to continue doing this great work that the community values so much. So I think in that sense, if we stop viewing it as like, oh, we're asking the community for a handout here or to bail us out or whatever, but much more becomes like, we're at the front lines of informing this community with the most important information that they need. We have a responsibility to be here. We have a responsibility.
And also to your employees, for anybody who's a publisher out there and had to do tough layoffs about people you care about, you could also think of it that way if it helps, is you're doing it in honor of the employees that you laid off who you would love to hire back. So I even tell some people that. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
Great suggestion. You know, I got a couple questions in here in the queue. I want to make sure we touch on them quickly since people sent them out. And Jed, this might be a good one for you. Is what's been holding this person back is whether or how they can make this a sustainable program versus just a one-off donation.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to touch on it briefly, but let's save it for a little bit later, because we actually have one of these 5 that's basically, we're calling it's not a sprint. I don't know if it's a marathon, but it's also not a one-day sprint. So let's think about things like email sequencing, right? How do you really build a series of email campaigns here? As Adam and others have done, how do you build a series of columns and personal appeals from your newsroom, from your publishing staff, et cetera? How do you do ongoing peer-to-peer activity? Maybe it starts with the publisher and then it permeates the newsroom and then it becomes the entire staff, and it's a way for you to activate your entire organization. But all of those are examples, and they're not one-offs. They can work together as well. These are all examples of how to think about this over multiple platforms, multiple touch points, multiple pieces of content, and multiple weeks. So that this isn't, again, just I ran an ad, I ran an email, and whatever happened, happened. Like, there are a lot of ways to build this over multiple weeks, learn from what you've done, get smarter, and continue to expand the campaign to reach more people. And Julia, we'll get more into that here in a little bit.
Absolutely. You know, I think that we probably want to mention this now and kind of move into this area. Adam mentioned briefly what he did as a thank you, but you know, when you have your Give Butter page and someone donates, there is a automated thank you message that goes out. All of you guys have given us text for that. We want to really mention that there's a need for a call to action there, and we have the ability to add links. I'm going to show you a couple examples here on the slide of what people have done that have been a real good example of things you can do. We want to make sure that if you guys aren't doing that now, that we really put this in best practices, something that we can go ahead and alter your pages now. We've got a couple examples here. I see one from Chicago Reader where they link to their membership program at the bottom. We've got one at the bottom over here on the right where they link to their daily headlines newsletter, as well as the print and digital subscription. And then Santa Cruz there has her phone number and her email address. I've been seeing that more and more where it's incredibly personal. I built a couple pages last night that had the same thing. It's like, here's my phone number. If you have questions, please call me. Certainly, we know that we want to keep this connection going with you and the folks that are donating. This is very personal at this point. They've given you money. They're willing to support you. So help them find a way to continue that relationship, you know, continue with either a membership or a newsletter or subscription of some sort, whatever it is that you guys would like to drive them to. Let's make sure we're putting that in your email, in the thank you note that comes out once they donate. I'll let Jed chime in a little bit too, just to drive this home a little bit.
Sure. I mean, not a lot to add other than, you know, this thank you is your opportunity to start building and nurturing a direct relationship with that donor. You know, I mean, we're not able to share those email addresses and contact points back with you simply because they're all coming through our 501c3, which is what enables us to enable you to take donations that are tax deductible. But we want to do everything we can to empower you to create relationships with your donors, to turn them from one-time donors and contributors into people that have more direct and or stronger relationships with your brand. So this example on the right is a very good example of one. It's a personal appeal. It's a personal thank you. As Adam and others have talked about, this personal touch is critical throughout this. But then there's also here a couple of embedded calls to action. We think something like if you have a coronavirus pop-up newsletter and or a daily news alert, a morning briefing, something like that, and or maybe it's even a more sort of enduring or durable membership program or subscription program. Probably not all of those calls to action in one email or in one thank you, but it's an opportunity to think about at least integrating one smart, thoughtful call to action that allows you to acquire an email address in the process and start building that direct one-to-one relationship with the donor. So I can't emphasize this enough, that personalizing the thank you is important, and then looking for an opportunity to capture that user information to build that relationship. This is an opportunity to take advantage of.
Absolutely. And if you guys ever want to make page changes to your pages, whether it's the thank you note or the story, or add a different type of picture in, just email either your fund guide or email directly to me, and we'll make sure we do those changes. So that's the easiest way to get it done, is just go ahead and email somebody who has emailed you about your link in the past, and we'll make sure we make those changes for you as quickly as possible. Okay. All right, we're going to keep moving, and Jed already touched on this a little bit, but he's going to dive in a little bit more. This isn't a sprint. This is something that we know this is. You have some long opportunities here, including, possible larger donors and things down the line. So I'm going to let Jed jump in and we'll talk about really why this is a long-term strategy.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple of thoughts here, and really would like to hear the feedback of the room on what you guys are doing to view this as a sort of multi-touch point or a multi-step campaign. But the big idea, again, is it's just not a one-off ask. It's not one email. It's not print one house print ad or run one display ad and a Facebook post and you're done. It's how to think about sequencing this. It's how to think about expanding the reach and the appeal of this. So, and this comes back to, you heard Eric talk about it with Record Journal. They're going to be publishing a series of columns. Adam has already done that with multiple pieces. Hopefully you all are thinking about this, that this is a way, and we talk about ways to activate your entire organization or your newsroom around this. One is to have all of them engage in peer-to-peer networking and sharing the link and sharing the campaign and the positioning with their networks and their friends. The other is to get more and more of them actually writing and making that appeal. It gets them bought into your campaign that much more. I'll give an example from a publisher who's not even participating in this program, but I think has done an excellent job around this for weeks connected to COVID with digital subscriptions, and that's a group called the Daily Memphian. They're a nonprofit in Memphis. They have a pretty large newsroom of about 40 plus individuals. Eric Barnes, their publisher, wrote a column very early on in this crisis saying, look, the information that we provide is free. We've made it outside of our paywall, but the cost to doing this is not free at all, and we need your help. And it was a very strong and honest appeal, but it wasn't just him. Then a couple of days later, they came back with their executive editor, and then after that with their sports editor, and they've probably done 5 to 7 different pieces. Each of them have a different tone. They're done in that person's tone or voice. Some of them are a little funnier, others are more serious. The sports guy may have his own sports twist on what's your appeal when the games aren't happening, when the scoreboard turns off. So that's a really good example of getting multiple people involved and thinking about this for the long term. Same thing with your email campaigns, same thing with your social campaigns. I think, Julia, I know we'd love to hear from others and how they're thinking about how to make this more of an enduring campaign over multiple weeks. Do folks have thoughts on this, on what you've done or plan to do to extend this and to reach more people than maybe you would if you just ran one email?
No, but your idea just reminded me I need to ask our editor and our sports editor to do a couple columns in the weeks ahead. So thank you for that.
Perfect.
I think this is Bruce with Whereby Us. So we have 5
Bruce?
products on the platform. One of the things I'm considering here when it talks about the longevity is I think there's going to be a limit to the goodwill of the coronavirus donations. Yeah. And it's going to have to start to talk about utility of the product, the things we'd serve, the value of the product and starting to tease that in. And so that's kind of what we're thinking about now. When do we see the traction slow down from coronavirus and start to think about the other messaging about the product, essentially? Like, what is it that we do to serve the community?
It's a great point. And I'm seeing questions that, we talk about the long life of this thing. Nancy Lane mentioned, not to forget about your community foundations and folks that might want to donate to you. And Jed, I do have some questions in here about larger funds too, whether that's something that we're thinking about is going after larger donations, corporate foundations, those types of things.
Yeah, I actually want to save that and talk about it at the very end when we talk about what's next for this program, because it's actually probably the number one thing that our team is working on your behalf this week, which is a really structured and smart approach to enable you to go what I'll call upstream or upmarket, to have those conversations with larger donors, whether that's a community foundation, like what Nancy mentioned, a larger enterprise or business in your area, or just a philanthropist that has the means and has the desire to give more. And so there are several on the line that I know are considering and or pursuing this strategy. There are lots of you and others that have approached us unsolicited and said, could this program and could this 501c3 and tax deduction be applicable to me if I really want to focus on larger donors? And the answer to that is absolutely 100% yes. And so I'll tease this again at the end of the webinar, but we'll be back in touch with all of you, certainly those that are interested in this avenue very soon, like in the days ahead, with some literature and positioning and messaging that you can put in front of those large donors to, one, inspire them, but also two, to put them at ease about who the local media foundation is, how the 501c3 works, how they're able to give in a secure and comfortable environment, and then how the actual processing of funds and disbursement of funds and reporting works connected to that. So our team is busily working on all of that this week, and we'll be back to you soon, because it's clearly part of extending the life of this campaign or program, expanding the reach of it, and of course, driving up dollars.
I want to point out something that I just got from the day too, that you guys see in the chat window. It sounds, I'm not sure if it's Doreen or Carlos. I know we've got a few folks possibly on the call if you guys want to talk about this, but this is a great suggestion. They're asking the reporters and editors to shoot, a minute 30 video, and they've been pushing it out on social. I'd love to see links to those so we can share them out with everybody in the group. And it sounds like there's a quote here said, "This is how my job has been impacted, but I'm still working hard to bring you vital information. Please consider supporting our work by subscribing or donating." In the appeal, they're asking staff to highlight recent COVID coverage that they've written and produced. That is a fantastic idea. Great examples. I'd love to see examples. Whoever sent that in, whether I just see it says the day. So I'd love to see that, and we'll share it with the group. If you can send me links to some of those social videos. And the day is doing extremely well. I think that they're almost at 10,000. I don't know if they've hit or not. I'd have to have Jed go check.
I think they're like 99.70. You guys are one. Let's see if we can get that one more donor while we're on the call to tip 10,000 for you. And by the way,
They're over.
You're over?
Oh, are you over? Is that Doreen?
All right. Let's have a little round of applause for the day. Awesome. Oh, by the way, that's really fun for our team to see these milestones. We are seeing different publishers and news outlets like you all in the audience hit 50 donations, 100 donations, $5,000, $10,000, whatever it might, every single day. And it's great to see. And I would actually ask, if you have examples like what Julia mentioned, send them to us afterward, but pin them in the channel right now. If you can access it and put links in Zoom, people can actually follow these examples as we're going through them.
Yep, absolutely. All right, anything else anyone wants to chime in? Want to make sure we're leaving time for you guys to jump in with any kind of questions or thoughts as we move through. We're almost on our last one, number one.
I want to just chime in just a few. My name is Janine Bass, and I'm from the Afro in Baltimore. Hi, everybody. I just want to thank the suggestions that have come in. I have found that for myself, the peer-to-peer was really great. I went into people I know and grabbed the email. Yes, the emails are successful for me. I passed on emails, requested not just straightforward, hey, I want your money. I first started off with just letting them know, thank you for supporting the Afro. And for us, it's relational here in Baltimore. For the Afro, it goes back to when I was a little girl. So I brought some of those memories into my email and passed it forward. And I receive response because persons would say, oh yeah, I loved Afro. I remember, being a paper boy back in the day or something like that. And they jump on and they pass their donations. I've received so far 3 calls today. They want me to call them back and help them walk through it. So we're looking for some increases there. I do want to say I like the idea about tapping into the youth about journalism to find out what they have to say and let them give a little snippet. So I'm passing that forward when we come together and discuss this call. Thank you, everyone.
Fantastic. I'm glad to hear it's working so well for the Afro. And I popped up, I happen to have the link ready for you on the screen too. So they have a pop-up window actually that comes up when anybody visits their site that talks about the fund. I think that's Tony. I think I see her in the call, and Lenora's here too. They've had an amazing amount of success with the Afro, and the comments that they're getting on their page are incredible. Really doing it in, for a specific person in their family, and really it's very personalized messages we're seeing out there.
The tributes on your page, Janine, are amazing. To people that have known your brand and loved your brand for multiple generations, some of the most moving stuff we've seen, incredible comments. And we can share the link to your public page, because I'd love for folks on this call to go in and look at what people are saying about their truly like emotional, like visceral connection to your brand and your work. It's remarkable. And I would also note, this is a really good example, this pop-up when you land on their site, of just different creative ways to message. So think about, you've got that embeddable widget, right? You can put that widget on your page. You can put it at the end of articles. You can put it, we know some that have put it as like a sticky footer or a sticky widget at the bottom of every single article. So I can read about COVID. Maybe I have maybe there's an inline call to sign up for a COVID newsletter. And then at the bottom, there's the widget with the ability to give. And this is sort of one widget execution or example when you first land on the Afro site. We really like this.
That's beautiful. All right, well, our number one piece of advice for everybody is actually using the resources and using the marketing. So I'm gonna stop the screen share, pass it over to our wonderful Emily, who has been building all of those amazing resources for you guys to use, and let her talk a little bit about what's available so you guys know what you have access to right now, what's coming, and what's been added recently in the last few days.
Thank you, Julia. And thank you everyone who's chimed in and written in the chat. It's so wonderful to see all these donations come in and the comments that go with them, to Jed's point. And what we want to do with the marketing materials is really just give you some of the imagery, some of the messaging that might help you be more successful in this. We love hearing and seeing all of the personal appeals, but some of what we've created is just straight out of the box. You can use it alongside some of your personal appeals as well as kind of standalone. So for those of you who haven't seen it, there is that COVID-19 COVID-19 fund public folder, and this is accessible to everyone. In the core folder here, we have a couple of documents that it would be helpful for you to read through if you're trying to just kind of get some language in your head for how you might position some of your messaging. We also have the logo as well. I want to point you to how do I market my campaign here. So we have a few folders here. We have the logos as well. I want to call out the social media graphics first. So we've divided these into individual folders for each of these platforms. These have actually all been updated. So if you did take a look, maybe when you first got the email at the marketing materials, we have all of those in there, but we're continually adding like taglines and different resources in here that you can pull from just to mix up your campaign as you go weeks and weeks on this. You're going to kind of want some variation week over week. So these are a few examples of some of the taglines that we've used. Of course, giving you the option to add your logo or use these standalone. Very direct call to actions here, support life-saving local reporting. On any of them that you see that say add logo, that's the one that you'll add your logo to if it's unclear for some reason. We have them for Instagram and Facebook as well. A lot of them have similar messaging, so you can do the same campaign across all of the platforms, and you can find all of the pieces in each of these folders. I want to call attention to, this is one of the new pieces, which is the pull quote templates, and going back to how many wonderful messages have been coming in on all of your pages, I went ahead and created these so that you can pop in your own text, so you can download these as is, and I'll show you an example of what they look like with the text in them here. So The Day, thank you for chiming in. This was actually a quote from the support page for The Day. I'm a subscriber. I rely on The Day for local news coverage. I just got my stimulus check and I want to, go where this counts. You can pop your own quote in here, add the attribution, and then share these on social. And for those of you who are using Canva to create your marketing materials, I've also created a document here that will direct you to the templates for each of these pieces of marketing material as well. So we have the static images that you can download, either use as is, use with your own editing tools. You can pop those into whatever editing tool that you use for images or your graphic designer uses. But if you are already using Canva, for example, let me just pull this up. And I can show you here that you would just download this template and then use this template for creating the design with your own logo. So I'm going to stop with the graphics portion. I know we have some chats coming in. I can't see them.
Yeah. Great ideas coming in of all sorts of fun things people are doing.
Awesome.
One is if you're not comfortable about doing on camera, that there's a link in the chat for an audiogram that you can do for free. Headliner.app, it looks like. And Noel said that he's looking to package their co-branded logo with a feature they developed called Our Stories. So a slightly different look for a co-branded logo around more utilitarian and news content, but Our Stories is resonating with the readers, so it's a good match. So it's a fabulous idea. And Emily, someone asked too for LinkedIn graphics. So maybe we can put together a LinkedIn package for these folks, because they're probably a great place, especially if you're going to try targeting some businesses in your area. It'd be a fantastic push.
Definitely, yeah. And please chime in with any more suggestions as we continue to build out the marketing materials here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on the notion of like LinkedIn and either trying to reach, wealthier individuals and executives or reach businesses, another thing that we'll talk about in a future office hour is not just that notion of going upstream and reaching larger donors, but also how can you create a match program in your community? Could you find a business, an enterprise, a community foundation, et cetera, that would match the donations that are coming in at a grassroots level up to a certain point? We have at least one organization that I think is in the audience that is in the process of looking into that we'll probably call on in the weeks ahead to talk about it. But that's an exciting way to double impact or multiply impact and get your community directly involved in doing that. We have another one. We don't have a screenshot of this. It's a slightly different skew on it, but we have at least one publisher participating that has done a match program where they are matching dollars raised up to a certain point with free advertising assets for nonprofits to get the word out about critical nonprofits in their community tied to individual donations by donors.
Okay, that's Noel Nash. How are you?
Hi, Noel.
Okay, I didn't know if you could hear me or not. Just piggybacking off the sort of the match and the local aspect to this attempt to solicit donations. My community might be more comfortable making a donation down at the local Banner Bank than clicking on this Give Butter link, right? It might be confusing and scary to them no matter what I tell them. Is there a way to combine the two? Is there a way to set up something where, hey, if you're more comfortable going to Banner Bank and doing this, as opposed to clicking on Give Butter, is there a way to connect those in any way?
I can speak to that. I think what I would say is more very soon on that. We're basically finalizing the process for you to approach larger donors that may not want to give through a third party like a Give Butter, but also want to give in a secure environment, and frankly don't want to necessarily pay the credit card and or the platform processing fees. So how do we remove the fees from their donation if they're giving $1,000 or more and give them a secure environment? That's what we're working on to just basically nail down our process, and you should hear from us in the next few days to enable you to do that.
Great.
We have had a few one-time situations too. One was a very large donor. I think, was it $1,000 check, Jed, or down in Georgia? $2,000 check. An older reader that wanted to donate and wanted to write a check. So if you do have that type of situation where you have someone come to you and they really just only feel comfortable writing the check, just hit us up with an email and we'll see if we can work through a process with you.
Yeah.
The important thing is to write the check to the local media foundation if they're expecting it to be tax deductible.
That's right.
So, but certainly checks are acceptable. If they don't care about it being tax deductible and they want to write it directly to the newspaper or the broadcaster, that is obviously okay too.
Yeah.
Great question. Real quick here, I do want to call attention to that we have these additional marketing materials. So you have the house ads, the mobile ads in several different sizes. We created new sizes So if you see an ad in here that you like, but not in the correct size and you need us to create it, just let us know. And then finally, I do want to pull up here. We've added some examples from different publishers. We have a working doc here that will show you. So we have not only the sample language that we provide, that's kind of very basic, you know, it even tags us in some of the tweets, but in addition to the daily emails for Matt Dorenzo, we've compiled here some of the examples you'll see in those emails, and then and more too, because there's so many great things happening in all of these campaigns. So this is kind of the landing place right now, especially for appeals and thank yous. That's what we've kind of seen the most questions around. We may continue to like refine and categorize some of these examples as we move along, but right now they all live in this doc. So you can kind of scroll through and see some of the examples that we find. And certainly if you have examples, we would love to add your examples to this doc as well. So send them our way. A lot of these we've talked about today, and a lot of you are on the call. So just know that this doc is here and that we're adding to it continually. It's accessible in that public folder called Appeals and Thank Yous. That's what this doc is called. Any questions about the marketing materials?
I'll just echo Julia's point. Keep the requests coming. You want pull quotes, we got them in. You want LinkedIn, we're gonna go build it. I will say from an LMA perspective, I mentioned this in the channel, we use pull quotes a lot around initiatives and programs that we're leading, and often find them to be really highly engaged assets. So as you get these great supporter comments like we've been talking about, and like what we talked about with the Afro specifically, you know, Adam made the point early on about thanking people publicly in social media. On top of that is using them as pulled quotes. They're public assets, using them to your advantage to get more people really leaning into the impact of what you're doing.
All right, just a few minutes left to the top of the hour. I want to make sure we leave some time for all of you guys to ask questions. We will be sending the deck out. At the end of the deck has got a link to the marketing folder. It's also got an email address if you guys have changes that you need. We'll make sure that you guys have access to everything. You guys know we send you emails quite frequently, so you know where to find us, certainly. But what questions do you guys have? What can we do to make this easier? You know, other than thanking you guys profusely for all the good work you're doing to help your communities, you know, what can we do to help?
This is Doreen from the day. We had a question that we were talking about this morning as to the value of setting a goal. We don't have a goal right now. What are the pros and cons of it? Any success or suggestions?
You know, I know Adam's on here, and he had his first goal set at 10,000. We passed it, and we reset it quickly. You know, I think it's always a good thing to have a goal. You know, I would say you don't want to set it so far out that it looks attainable, and that way it's people are like, oh, you're never going to hit, you know, $500,000. But certainly if you have something that's within reach, I think it's, you know, it's always good to have that visual. Plus it just creates, you know, the nice little chart on the site. I think it helps people help you get closer to your goal. I think it's always a good thing. Adam, I don't know if you want to chime in on that, since we know.
Yeah, I spoke to, I've never done anything with fundraising before. So in addition to asking you guys, I also asked for the opinion of a fundraiser for one of our local hospitals. And she actually read my column, and she saw the fundraising we had done so originally. And the only critique she had was that we set the goal too low, in her opinion, with our original 10,000. So we revised it to the 25,000. You know, later when we were closing in on 10,000, or once we passed it, I guess it was, once we hit 10,000. But her point was, you want it to be reasonable, but you also want it to be pretty aggressive to illustrate to the community that you really need to rally support. So you don't want to be insane about it, but you want to err on the side of an aggressive goal, in her opinion.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so Doreen, let us know if you want to add one for your pages. We can do that quickly.
Yeah, I think we'll probably talk about it internally and get back to you quickly, but thank you.
You know, we can, like, as to Julia's point, we can tweak the pages if you decide to start without one and then add one. Or, you know, one thing to think about without getting too much into the psychology of giving is if you start out with a goal and you're brand new and it shows no dollars or $50 on the path to 10,000, I think sometimes, I'm not speaking from like a position of authority here, but I think sometimes that can be maybe a little demotivating to people. So one thing to think about is getting started, maybe launching your campaign, getting a few donations in, showing a little bit of progress, and then adding that goal to your page where people can see like, wow, there's some momentum. They're on a path here. Now I can really help them concretely get there.
Once I went live with it on that Sunday night, I had my wife donate $500 to your point. So
Feed the momentum.
Yeah.
I remember that. I was so excited for you. I was like, you got a donation. Like, it was my wife.
I know. I was like, sorry to throw cold water on the excitement, but.
Okay. What else you guys have out there? Anything?
I mean, I know y'all have day jobs, but we'll stay on here as long as you want.
All right, folks. So we did record this. We'll send the recording out. We're going to send you links. We'll send you the deck. We're going to send you email addresses. I see Martin down there nodding because he knows I email him 100 times a day. So he knows I'm going to follow up. No questions. Anything you guys need, please don't hesitate. You know, we're building this to make it work for you. So certainly, you know, you need to tell us what you need to make this successful. So we work for you guys. Let us know what you need.
Our plan is to do this every week if you all would like. So let us know. We'd really love feedback on how this hour worked for you, what you liked and what we could do differently. And also just topics as you run into sticking points, you get stuck, or you're thinking about the next level of your campaign or what you'd like to hear about next. Like, your feedback is really going to drive what we do next Tuesday at this time. So we're an open book like that. And I just want to personally thank all of you for the investment. It's been remarkable for our team to be able to go from nothing to standing up this program in the span of about 2 weeks and approaching $200,000 in donations coming into your community. So just a round of applause for all of you guys, and onward we go.
And a big thank you to Adam for fielding some questions today and giving you guys a little information. So we appreciate Adam and all that he did today to help you guys out.
Oh, thank you guys. You guys have been truly incredible.
All right, folks, top of the hour. So everyone have a good day with your day jobs, and let us know what you need. We're here to help.
And thank you all.
Thank you all. Thanks, Julia. Thanks, Jed.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.